My guest this evening is a powerhouse musician from the Northwest. Her blend of blues, folk, and other genres of music has created a sound uniquely her own. She is an all-around creative with a graphic design and illustration background as well. Please welcome to the Eclectic Arts virtual studio, Katie Kuffel. Katie.
Hello.
How are you over there?
I'm good. All things considered. How are you doing?
I'm doing good too. Just like we were talking about that little asterisk that's there.
Oh yeah, just a little.
Yeah, for sure. And like we were talking pre-show, things have been crazy and nutty for everybody during the pandemic and the protests, and now it's getting lengthened out in terms of things starting to ratchet back down in most of the states because of the COVID rise again. So how have you kind of been coping during this time of 2020?
Coping is a great way to put it. I've definitely been coping. I think I mentioned as we were kind of warming up today that I feel like I'm just in kind of like a Groundhog Day situation over and over again, just kind of waking up and being like, oh, another day at my house. What am I going to get up to today? And, a lot of it has been kind of just trying to approach creating in different ways or giving myself space to try new things. Got really into baking for like 3 days and then was like, not for me. And then the other thing is me and my partner, we got a freshwater fish tank. And so we became fish people. And they're all still alive. So I think it's been pretty successful.
Yeah, that's a good indicator.
I know. I'm like, if they die, then something's really bad on our end. So they're like kind of my litmus test of, my own mental health right now. Like if I can keep these fish alive, we're good.
Sounds good. I was also going to mention you posted pictures. You have a really interesting dog. Yeah. Can you speak to the breed of dog or just things about your dog?
So yeah, his name is Tupper, like Tupperware. And here's the thing. He's actually, I feel like I'm actually kind of his grandma. He's not 100% my dog. I help watch him for, there's a couple that has, some different physical disabilities. And so they aren't able to like take care of him and walk him as much as he needs because he's so young. And so I have him, like Monday through Friday, like it's like visitation rights or something. And he is huge and a bear. He's like 150 something pounds right now. So he's great. He's a Newfoundland is the breed. And it's just kind of like a bigger, dopier, furrier Labrador. So he's great. I love him. I love Tupper. He's a big dopey baby. So
yeah, I saw pictures or maybe even a video clip of Tupper with like drooling everywhere.
Oh yeah, it's just like a constant deluge of just moistness. And he'll just like get really up in your business. So I've gotten used to just, it's like when you see parents with like a toddler and they're just like, I'm just going to take this off of your face. And I'm used to the gross factor for sure. But yeah, his head is like bigger than mine. He's bigger than I am. And he's just great. I recommend big dogs to anyone who can manage the space.
Wonderful. Yeah, I'm definitely most people, if not all the people in Alice, a lot of the fans are animal people, including myself. So that's why anytime I see something, I always want to talk about if it's a dog, cat, guinea pig, anything that they have. Let's kind of talk about it a bit.
Good. Yeah, I am super into that.
Okay, so you and I know each other, but I don't know a lot about your background. I was kind of doing some research and kind of learning some things, so I want to kind of get into some of that so the folks out there can understand more about you and your background. Yeah. So I know that, and correct me if I'm wrong, that you grew up on Bainbridge Island. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm interested to see how much you can find out about me from Googling me on the internet. This is going to be great. Yeah, so far you're 100%. Grew up on Bainbridge.
Okay, and that you first started studying cello as a classical type of musician, I would say.
Yeah, I first started when I was 8 years old, and I had to ask my parents for like a couple years to let me start playing because I have two older brothers, and they both kind of went into music, and then were like, not for me. And so eventually I got them to acquiesce and showed them.
Okay, well, and then with that, so when you were studying cello, was it something at some point where you thought about perhaps going, the symphony orchestra route at all, or was that ever in the cards before you started branching out into
I
other
was
things?
way too wily for like the super classical route. So I recall my father, who loves like blues music and stuff, had like a weekend dude porch hangout with his other dad friends where they would just like drink beer and play blues music. And I was, just like a little 8 to 9, 10-year-old, and I would just get to play cello with them. And that was more the stuff I was interested in, is just kind of like sitting in and playing with folks. And I started, kind of writing melodies and stuff on the cello, writing songs, because I just really didn't want to practice the stuff that was given to me. So I was trying to like co-opt my lessons in a way. But I did eventually, I did play in orchestras. I loved it. And it is something that I kind of miss playing with other string instruments right now. But I've always been non-traditional, we'll put it.
Okay, all right, fair enough. And then you started playing at some point, I actually don't remember the years, piano/keyboard.
Yeah, we got a piano from my aunt, who was like remodeling or something and just didn't want to have it anymore. So she gave it to us. And then I somehow got my parents to also get me like some piano lessons, and same thing, started writing stuff to not practice the music that was given to me, and had a really dope teacher who was just really supportive of that, and yeah, taught me a lot of jazz, a lot of improv, and kind of opened me up to that world.
Okay, and so when you're studying cello, studying piano, did you also just start working on your voice then at that time, or is that something separate that came along later?
Yeah, so I was always and currently am someone who loves to sing, and I grew up in a very like musical household. My mom has a great voice, so it was something that was just kind of present. I wouldn't say I ever like really worked on it. It was just kind of a natural progression. It wasn't really like a choice that I made. It just was always there, and so I was like, oh, might as well. So yeah.
Okay. I want to kind of shift gears a little bit, because I know you have a connection to the Fremont Abbey Arts and everything that they do. And so can you kind of speak to that timeline, like when you first got involved with them? And I know you've done stuff as currently as of, I want to say, May of this year. So you've been doing a lot of things with them over the years.
Yeah, so I would say the Fremont Abbey was actually like my first, at the time, what felt like a big kid venue. That wasn't like a bar in Georgetown or like, some open mic. Because let's see, I moved back to Seattle when I was like 20, and was just kind of like cutting my teeth on playing as many things as I could. And eventually I got picked up they have a series called The Round, which is where they hire like 3 musicians, a spoken word artist, and they have a live painter. And they all go down the line and perform songs and talk and like story tell. And I would say that was when I was like 22. So like 2015, 2016 in there. And then, immediately after that, just by happenstance, they're a great nonprofit, and they decided to open up a course called the Young Artist Program, where it was kind of a mentorship course where they would help you like have a website or like, how do you have like a contract that's fair? And like, this is what you should be paid, all those things that you end up learning the hard way, or you can just have someone who's done this before tell you, so you don't get taken advantage of. So I applied and got, approved for that, did that for like a year. And then just, there's so many great local Seattle artists that go through the Abbey. So just by working with them, I was able to meet them, play with them, play on their stuff. And it was really a great jumping off point for me to kind of, get into that web of the local scene.
Okay. Yeah. No. And like we were talking about pre-show, and I've talked about with a few other local guests, that the scene around here is so amazing for that collaboration, for that support. It really is something that I haven't really experienced really anywhere else, in terms of it being truly, if somebody wants to collaborate, they collaborate. It's not like there's nothing behind the wall or some kind of other ulterior motive behind. It's like, no, I would love to do that too. So
I just want to play.
Yeah.
And isn't that like so refreshing too? It's like, oh yeah, we just like the same stuff. It's like when you're two kids on the playing field and you're like, you got Pokemon cards, I got Pokemon cards. And like, we're just gonna like, oh, we both like the same stuff. How cool is that?
Yeah, because I mean, I'm thinking back to one of the concerts I saw of yours, and I want to say it was November of 2018 at the Sunset. That Arthur opened the show, and then Arthur comes back on. There's all this interchanging of people.
I know, it was like a little musical chairsy.
Yeah, and I love that there was such an open concept. That's like, it's not like I'm here. It's like, no, it's like we all love the same things, and we all respect each other. So let's kind of just have fun with what we want to do, create music.
Yeah, it was super refreshing, because I came from I was studying composition in Portland actually, and I ended up really hating the conservatory life, and just, it was like a lot of pomp and circumstance for the type of stuff that I was wanting to do. It felt very closed. And so when I got back to Seattle and eventually started playing with other musicians, it was such a breath of fresh air of just such genuineness and such like, I just want to play, and there's not like this big chip on my shoulder of feeling like I'm better, or like this type of music is better, or like people are just so open. So it's kind of, I would imagine, a very special city, because it allows artists to kind of experiment a lot and play with a bunch of different people, especially because of the number of kind of small and mid-sized venues we have. You can just kind of see what works, which I think can be hard in other cities.
Yeah, no, that's very, very well said. And I think it also kind of spills out into the other folks, even like myself, in terms of like the photographers that cover the shows, and we all get to know each other. And it's not like, oh, get out of my way, I'm trying to get this shot.
I know. I know. I've seen you guys just be like, hey.
Yeah, I'm thinking like with Phil and Kirk and some of the other folks that cover.
I miss Phil so much every day.
He was truthfully, and I don't know if he's watching this now, maybe he'll watch it later on YouTube, that I would see his social media, and that was kind of learned to me in terms of like, who else is out there, because he was out there so much, covering so many things in such a spectacular way, that I'm like, okay. And then when he moved, I'm like, oh no.
I know. But it's also like, I guess we have to share this gift with other people now. It's like we had our moment.
Yeah.
Phil is incredible and gave a lot of people, it's hard to actually get good concert photography a lot of the time for free. I mean, or like, he just would give people who didn't necessarily have a following, or who were just starting, some material to actually promote themselves with. And also, it just feels good if you've never done it before to be like, oh, someone's like photographing me and I'm on stage. That's so cool.
Yeah, no, I mean, he's so generous, such an awesome guy.
Oh my God, I know.
And that's, again, just that's part of that scene, all these other people too, and the sound engineers and the production people and everyone that's in that scene up here. I'm really spoiled by it.
I felt that so much. When I've been on the road before, I'm always keeping my heart and ears open to just see is there anywhere else that I'd like to move? And I've been to these cities, other cities across the US multiple times, and each time I'm like, man, Seattle's pretty great. Or it just, something about my personality and the way Seattle is structured just is meshed really well.
That's awesome. I'm a lifer. I was born here. I don't really plan on leaving here.
Yeah. Please don't leave. we need the arts here.
So hey, let's kind of talk. I want to talk about your songwriting process. We do have a video clip that we're going to be showing that you provided us, and your songwriting process in general. You were telling me pre-show a lot of times that you're used to working on things in front of an audience, so you can kind of tweak and twist and turn and churn. So can you kind of speak to just your process of how you compose your songs?
Yeah, process is a very generous term. I feel like sometimes it just kind of happens in so many different ways for me. I think one of the things that might maybe set me apart is that I'm very lyrically driven. I love poetry. I love the written word in general. I love the way words sound, and all the fun things you can do with it. So a lot of the times I have like a notes app on my phone or like a billion journals, and I've just written down like a couplet or like one thought, and then I'll come back to it later if I'm just like kind of thumbing through stuff and start writing something. Sometimes it's like autobiographical. Sometimes there's like a story in my head that I'm trying to portray. But once I kind of have, a rough lyrical form down, then I add music on top of that. And the way I love to work is I'll just have a bit of an idea, and then I'm just someone who so relies on collaboration. I'll bring like a friend or another instrumentalist or a band in, and we'll be like, guys, let's work on this together. I don't think I can come up with something as good as me and a bunch of other people together can come up with. And so it's through those ideas opening up by bouncing stuff off of each other that a lot of these songs are born. And so in a way, it feels like a lot of them aren't really 100% mine. I just kind of had like the seed that planted, and then someone else came and watered it, or someone else came and like shone some light on it. And eventually it grew to something a little bit bigger than any one of us could have done on its own.
I love how you just described that about you planting the seed and someone else watering it and somebody else putting sun on it, and that's I'm gonna have to try to remember that. That's such an amazing way to describe the collaboration process that ends up with this particular song, or if it's a film or whatever you're working on. That's awesome. And when you're talking about your lyrical things, that also kind of brought me back to, I think one of the first things I ever saw of yours, or maybe later on, was the live version you did of Cantaloupe at the Fremont Abbey.
Oh yeah.
And those lyrics are almost like you're rapping. So it completely meshes with what you just said about you're so into lyrics and words and how they work around each other. And I was thinking about that. I'm like, yeah, that song is just like, everything just kind of rolls.
There's a lot of syllables in there. Got them in. No, yeah. I love them. And I love to say as much as I can, maybe in a convoluted way, but hopefully, it has some rhythm and has something that people can sink their teeth into.
Awesome. Well, hey, I think this is a good time to show that clip. So can you kind of set it up in terms of telling people what we're going to be seeing here?
Okay, yeah. So this is a song. It's called Black Needle. I wrote it on a plane to Chicago with my band. We were about to play a show. And I was really into playing stuff we wrote that day just to see what would happen. And so we got there like 20 minutes before we were supposed to go on. We were really late. And I was like, okay, guys, let's just do like a G minor blues scale thing over this, and then just figure it out. And so this song was born, and eventually we got to just do a quick live session of it. And I don't know if it'll ever be recorded in like album form, because it's so like of the moment and so like live feeling that I don't think it would do it justice. But yeah, this is that.
Awesome. So if the Alice folks down in LA could run the clip, I would really appreciate it.
Me too.
I found your hair woven through my sweater, saw the face married man. I drove 14 hours to Utah to take you out from your daddy's land. You drank whiskey in your cola, had a voice as sweet as wine. You lived your life on the shoestring I lent you. How funny, I thought you'd stay mine. Another sad, sad song, another old tale, another notch behind the bed. You took my money, honey, you took my time all from me. Now I love someone else instead. That black needle stuck in my shoulder, always pulled the threads I should cut. How could I say I thought of you often, but you never really meant that much. You worked the washstand in the alley. I see you scratched that rich man's face. Gave you ideas of love I thought were tragic. Gave you a story, I gave you a chase. Another sad, sad song, another old tale, another notch behind the bed. You took my money, honey, you took my time all from me. Now I love someone else instead. I changed my mind so often. How I played at loving you sweet. Ginger hair was a river that split me in two, but man, I gave as good as I received. Another sad, sad song, another old tale, another notch behind the bed. You took my money, honey, you took my time all from me. Now I love someone else instead. You took my money, honey, you took my time all from me. Now I love someone else instead. You took my money, honey, you took my time all from me. Now I love someone else instead. That's a wrap.
Everything else. So you mentioned that song may not fit the or see light in terms of the album, but are you working on new songs for an album during this time?
So here's the thing. I'm sitting on an album currently.
Oh.
I have one done and recorded. I actually recorded it. Friend of a friend has a studio over in Nashville. So flew out there in March, late March, which if we remember the COVID timeline is right when stuff was happening.
Yeah.
And I got there, and then, there was fear of like, am I going to be able to fly home? Because no one knew what was going on then. But yeah, I have a 10-track album that I'm sitting on. It has a lot of new textures, and I think it's a lot more orchestrated than stuff that I've done before, just because I had the time and resources to invest in it. And there's still a lot of that like bluesy undertone and like kind of like dirty, jazzy kind of stuff. But yeah, it's done. And I'm going to be hopefully releasing 2 singles by the end of the year, and just kind of putting stuff out there, just feeling like, hey, I'm around. Music's still happening.
Oh, that sounds awesome. I'm so happy to hear that you're sitting on an album and ready for it to come out, kind of a thing. And we were talking during the video clip about your amazing musicians that back you live and sometimes in the studio, Jonathan and Jordan. Can you speak to those amazing musicians that you collaborate with?
Yeah, so they were both featured in the video along with Audrey, who's playing trombone. I just happened to, like, through word of mouth, I was looking for musicians because I booked a show. This happens a lot where you'll book a show and you're like, oh yeah, I can get a band together. And then you don't have a band, and so you gotta like scramble to get something together. And they were just the first 2 names that responded to me years ago. I think probably like 3 years ago, 4 years ago. And I just managed to like sink my claws into them and keep them because they're really good. John is the bassist you see playing his wonderful pink bass. He's a Tacoma boy with kind of a classical and a funk background. And then Jordan moved to Seattle from like middle of nowhere, Montana, and is just like this very driven, jazz-minded percussionist, like a super textural player. It's with he just adds so many places in the sparseness of like a trio or a 4-piece that it just he's kind of like the thread that holds a lot of us together. I feel like he has a very good ear for that.
Yeah, no, like I was mentioning to you, I've seen you play live 3 times in that configuration, and I was just blown away by not only the musicianship but how you work so well together. It was like, holy crap, this is just amazing to see, and I'm so, in some ways, like proud that these musicians are here in Seattle doing this kind of thing. So it's great. Katie, it's been so amazing talking with you and catching up with you during this time. I want to we have like about a minute left. Where can people find out about you? What else would you like people to know about you during this time before we have to say goodbye?
So you can find me on like all the streaming platforms. I'm on Spotify, iTunes, etc. under Katie Kuffel. I think I'm the only Kuffel that exists. You can find me on Instagram, Facebook, all that good stuff. I also have a Patreon if you feel like supporting or checking out that kind of stuff for little perks. And yeah, thank you so much for having me. This was a delight.
Awesome. No, thank you so much. And, stay safe. I can't wait to hear the new music. And hopefully at some point, I don't know exactly when that'll be, but we'll get to see each other actually like in person or maybe 6 feet away or however that's going to
We'll breathe the same air again. Yeah.
Yeah, there we go. Have a good night and take care.
Yeah, you do too. Thank you. Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.